Do you want to make a void sphere to suck in a really good sense of the word? This is the video on void balls as main source of damage in the build, and the video on how you can actually make it workable and viable, and can you actually suck almost anything. Void balls is definitely offering a different and fun way to play the game, and actual crowd control is really nice to have for a change. Before we start, just a friendly reminder, if you enjoy my videos, hit subscribe and ring the bell to be posted on regular Path of Exile videos. I do enjoy creating fun, non-meta but still viable builds, as well as creating more technical guides like one on MIDI foot controllers in games. And back to Void Sphere. With some effort and unorthodox thinking, you can make it workable. But while it is totally viable for any tier of map clear, haste, delve and blight, it simply do not pull off big enough numbers to be fast while killing single target bosses from tier 14 and onward. The best numbers that you can get is around 1.2 million serious DPS, maybe even more if you put a lot of currency in the really min-maxed build, but in real world it honestly goes down to around 1 million when you include all the tank potential and do not have excessive currency. On the flip side, you would still want to run secondary weapon with single target skill due to the nature of Void Sphere itself. You simply want to have something to kill off stragglers when you're not sucking with your Void Sphere and wait for the spell cooldown. And there is definitely some high DPS options that synergize well with that particular build. First, you have to resolve an issue of usability. Standard version of the gem is simply too slow for the current game dynamics. You can counteract that by using the anomalous version with shorter cooldown and duration, and you can bring down both values to workable degree with following tools. First, the second wind support for backup use of spell and lower cooldown, second, the helmet enchantment for lower cooldown of Void Sphere itself, and then the next tool is passive tree skill duration nodes to counteract decreased duration of anomalous version of the skill and to match our cooldown. And now, how you can actually then scale the damage of Void Sphere itself? First, we are down to the only 4 DPS gems. You need to forget about any physical to chaos conversion or chaos damage scaling. It does not have any numbers for anything thanks to our GG desire to make Void Sphere only support spell. And there is actually potential to do the poison build, but I chosen to go on the raw DPS from the Archmage support, converting the damage into lightning source, and that is also synergizing with our single target spell in the secondary weapon for our boss encounters. And the big question is, can you use the Indigon? And unfortunately, nope. Void Sphere does snapshot of the spell damage when you cast and do not apply damage buff with subsequent pulses that actually do the damage. Indirect use of Indigon without Archmage support on the Void Sphere via tools like Arcane Cloak is also not viable, doing around 50% less damage than just pure Archmage on the Void Ball. And overall, Indigon really adds to unwieldiness of the Void Sphere, locking you down for 4 seconds from casting any spell with ridiculous mana cost after putting your Void Sphere down. Now we are left with the Archmage support scaling from our mana pool and 3 other supports. They are Lightning Penetration support, Intensified support, and Increased Area of Effect that you can actually swap to the Consecrated effect if you are still leveling and did not scale all the other damage sources. By that we will have almost screen-wide area of effect, and with Apex mode unique jewel we can actually stack Intensify stacks for DPS boost on second recurring cast of our Void Ball. We are stacking mana for damage and tank. To complement all that, we will use the Replica Calm's Heart and Aziri Foible Amulet for most of mana and lightning damage bonuses. Then we will use single Wrath Aura in the Essence Worm to get majority of our mana unreserved. Crown of Inward Eye is the only unique where you can buy proper Void Sphere enchantment and still have 100% of synergy with Transfiguration of Mind and our mana pool. For our weapons, you can use Realm Ender and Agni-Rod South, both are viable. And for rares in other slots, just go for as much of mana stacking that you can find, fix your res and grab at least some flat life, then you are set. And the main question is, so what are actual Ascendancy that is viable for Void Ball usage? First, we want a good starting point to have the most of mana nodes on the tree. Hierophant is somewhat usable, but then you are stuck with the 2 useless Ascendancy points, and the Ascendant is just simply have more things to go around. You can have the stun immunity with Juggernaut node and have the old damage and tank beats from the Hierophant node on the Ascendant. And also we are using the Arcane Surge with the Flame Dash plus Archmage trigger, which is also great DPS boost. Yes, we would have the Arcane Surge proc from the Hierophant node on our Ascendancy. It is level 1 bonus and, well, running max level Arcane Surge as addition is still beneficial. Then we will scale our lightning damage and spell damage with the Conductivity Curse and of course the Righteous Fire. Then running the Anomalous Immortal Call on the shortest cooldown with the second wind support is crucial for our mana management and tank from our Dynamo notable and Agnostic Keystone. Also we'll rely on Mind over Matter Keystone for our survivability. And since we are signed with +5 skill points and good starting position, we can get all our dexterity strength requirements by accessing dual sockets for triple ground spectrum setup. So the next step for the quality mana management and survivability is running the Watcher's Eye variant. We will need at least one with a 10% of damage taken from mana before life when you are affected by Clarity Aura. Obviously we will need to run the Clarity Aura on the level 1 to get this effect. And also for more sustain you can get the Mind Drinker Amulet Anoint, or maybe you can get the Intensify Anoint if you want more damage. A last gem setup is the Castman damage taken with the Frost Wall to mitigate the projectiles, Sigil of Power to get the some free damage mitigation and extra damage, and of course Wave of Conviction to that extra damage, lightning penetration for your balls. And 1, 2, 3 passive tree. Whatever. Like we are starting as the Scion, of course really great to grab all those mana nodes when you are just starting. And here we are going for the Agnostic Keystone, really important. Basically this is your life recovery from your mana recovery. And speaking of mana recovery, we are going for the Dynamo notable. Really important. Every time when you are using your Immortal Call, you basically proc Dynamo and get your 20% of the mana recovered. Really important, and that's why we are decreasing the cooldown of the Immortal Call and using especially the Immortal Call over Arcane Cloak, because this is the shortest cooldown and the best mana management that you can get for any mana based build, by the way. After that we are going for the triple jewel slots over here with some strength for your Replica Column's Heart and your second wind support. And the 3 slots are for your ground spectrums with increased elemental damage, and we are limited to 3. Basically we are grabbing one here, and one here for our ground spectrums. After that we are going for the Apex mode to slap that intensify stacks on our build. And of course the exceptional performance is really great because, well, with the anomalous version of the Void Ball you have reduced skill effect duration, and we want to combat that. And base idea, well, you have your cooldown recovery and your effect duration of your Void Ball. You want the duration a bit higher than your actual cooldown recovery, so you have a bit of breathing room on your cooldowns and can use the Void Ball consistently. After that, of course, we are grabbing all the mana nodes that are available over here, and we are going upstairs through the forefront to have increased mana costs of the skills and some mana. And of course the Watcher Eye is really important, that one with 10% of damage taken from mana before life while affected by Clarity Aura, really important for our tank. And of course this is Mind over Matter effect, and of course we are grabbing our Mind over Matter Keystone to have our survivability on the build from our mana. After that we are grabbing the Elemental Overload and going upstairs over here. A lot of things happening, but basically it is more life, more mana, lightning damage, and of course area effect. The interesting stuff is the Annihilation. This is basically, without Intensify stack, around 10% of the critical strike chance for your Void Ball, and that's is basically enough to proc your Elemental Overload really consistently, even faster than every 8 seconds. After that we are going for the Mystic Bulwark over here and some prodigal whatever perfection. The increased spell damage when you spend your mana, of course, and of course some spell block chance and maximum mana. Ordinary jewel slot over here, the enigmatic defense for spell block chance to synergize with the Mystic Bulwark, of course, and of course some mana and life over here. After that you are going sideways over there. and grab your purity or flash with chaos res and chaos resistance. Oh, life and chaos resistance. Always great. And of course, the arcane capacitor is really great for your damage, for your arcane surge effect, and of course your maximum mana. After that we are going for the last bits on the build, and they are of course our cluster jewels. We are using one large cluster jewel and two smalls, and we are using that to get free...
Wait for it, wait for it. I channel my inner Mexican
Skinty idea.
I don't know what was that, like I cannot pronounce this word in English, and by the way Spanish is not my native language, no. But this idea, these three notes that we are actually going for on our small cluster jewels, on our large cluster jewel of course, and other things that we are grab on the large cluster jewel is not really like essential, but well, more damage is always great with the Vengeful Commander for our increased aura effect of the Wrath, and something like elemental damage from Disorienting Display, whatever that you can grab here. Here you can grab, I think there is the conductivity effect, also great, everything with elemental damage and spell damage, just go for it. Base idea, just go for the triple ideas with damage penetration for Lightning Crest and increase maximum mana. And of course, to wrap up our build and make it universal, let's go for the elephant in the room, the single target damage. I am using the Shock Nova with the Pledge of Hands unique stuff. It definitely benefits from the everything on our tree. It is simple, reliable single target damage. And if you are generally actually interested in the more universal Shock Nova build, I have the separate build for the Pathfinder and would be doing the next build on the Ascendant version in the next video.
Good find, Exile. More, Exile. Go find more.